Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our goal here is simple. Get you the knowledge you need quickly and thoroughly. You want a solid grasp without feeling buried in info, and, well, that's what we do. Today we're jumping into something probably on a few minds, the IELTS speaking test, specifically looking towards 2025.
That's right. And we've stumbled upon a, let's say, lively piece of source material, a podcast script promising secrets for the test. Our mission today in this deep dive is to kind of sift through the hype, find the really useful bits, the actionable takeaways for anyone prepping.
Okay, let's get into it then. This source. It tries to give us a peek into the examiner's mindset for 2025. And the first thing it flags is apparently a dislike for predictable answers.
Which is interesting, isn't it? It suggests examiners might be looking for something more current, an awareness of what's happening now. The source actually gives an example, a student completely freezing when asked about space tourism.
Space tourism, okay.
Yeah, it implies a shift maybe away from just talking about your hobbies towards these bigger, more contemporary, maybe even slightly out there topics.
And speaking of contemporary, the source makes this really bold claim and says examiners are, and this is a direct quote, obsessed with AI, and that this is going to be huge for questions next year. That sounds intense.
It does sound intense. Obsessed is strong language. But, well, think about it. AI is everywhere, right? How we talk, how we work, entertainment, it's touching everything. So it actually makes sense. Examiners would want to see if candidates can discuss it thoughtfully, the good, the bad.
So maybe not obsessed, but definitely relevant. Fair enough.
Exactly. Being ready to talk about AI seems like a pretty smart move, I'd say.
Okay, then the source shifts gears to climate change. But it frames it kind of oddly, like a potential guilt trip during the exam.
Yeah, guilt trip is provocative wording. But maybe the underlying point is about awareness of major global issues and how you discuss personal responsibility or, the bigger societal impact. Less about making you feel bad, perhaps, and more about seeing if you grasp this massive ongoing issue.
Right. Understanding versus guilt. Got it. And rounding out this trio of potential hot topics, remote work, or as the source puts it, pajama parties versus productivity nightmares.
Well, that certainly captures the debate, doesn't it? The remote work boom has kicked up so much discussion, work-life balance, tech, how cities are changing, social stuff. It's got lots of angles. So yeah, fertile ground for exploring pros and cons in the test.
Now, here's a real curveball from the source. It suggests examiners might actually use silence strategically, like on purpose. That sounds pretty unnerving.
It does, doesn't it? But maybe it's a way to see how you handle pressure. Or if you can take the initiative, like, do you use that pause to add more, gather your thoughts? Or does it just throw you off?
So it highlights being okay with a bit of quiet. Using it maybe instead of just panicking to fill the space.
Precisely. Don't feel you have to rush to fill every single second.
Okay, so potential topics. AI, climate change, remote work, and this silence tactic. What about actual questions? The source gives some examples. For that AI obsession, a part 1 question example is, do you let Siri read your texts?
Ah, that's quite clever for part 1. Simple on the surface, daily tech use, but it opens doors, doesn't it? To convenience, maybe privacy worries. It's not just a yes-no, it invites explanation.
Yeah, I see that. And then for part 3 on AI, it throws out, will AI make teachers unemployed? Whoa, that's a leap. Much bigger picture.
Exactly. Part 3 is meant to push you into more abstract thinking, wider implications. That question hits future of work, education roles, automation. It's complex stuff.
Okay, switching to climate change. For part 2, the example is, describe when you failed to recycle something. That feels very personal. Relatable, maybe, unfortunately.
It does. And notice how it connects a personal moment to the big global issue. You need to recall something specific, describe it, maybe even reflect on why or how you felt. Adds a bit of authenticity, maybe.
And the part 3 follow-up for that, should we arrest people who litter? Okay, that definitely raises the stakes.
It certainly does. That kind of question really tests your ability to form an opinion, back it up logically, and engage with something potentially quite debatable in society. Can you think critically and state your case?
Right. Okay, lastly, remote work. Part 1 example. Can you actually work with Netflix on? I suspect many people know the answer to that one personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Very practical, very relatable. Taps right into the reality of home working. Distractions, allows you to talk about your own experience, maybe your strategies, if any.
And the big thought, part 3 for remote work. Will offices become extinct like dinosaurs? Quite the dramatic image.
It is. It's designed to provoke thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
About the long-term future of work. Do we need offices? What are the big societal shifts happening? It encourages that kind of wider discussion.
So we have topics, we have question types, but what about those moments where, your brain just stops? Blank space? The source offers what it calls a survival guide for awkward silences. Could be useful.
Oh, definitely. Having a few phrases ready, like the source suggests, wow, what an interesting question, can buy you precious seconds just to breathe, think, without staring blankly, shows you're still engaged.
I also like the tip about describing something if you don't have the word. Like, it's the green thing you put bottles in, recycling bin. You're still communicating right.
That's a brilliant strategy, actually. Shows resourcefulness. You're working around a vocabulary gap, conveying the meaning anyway, keeps the conversation moving. It's much better than just stopping.
And then there's the slightly cheeky one. Can I phone a friend? Said with a smile. Obviously you can't, but...
But the intent is there. A bit of light humor can really diffuse tension, yours and maybe the examiner's. Shows you can handle pressure with a bit of grace, maybe even charm.
Okay, so topics, question styles, coping mechanisms. The source also throws in some illustrative Band 9 examples that they're presented with quite a bit of dramatic flair. What can we actually learn from them, even if they seem a bit over the top?
Well, even with the exaggeration, they do point towards what high-scoring responses often include. Things like fluency, obviously, coherence, making sense, but also maybe richer language, elaborating on points, connecting ideas.
Right. One example for AI was this funny story about using ChatGPT for homework and the teacher's dramatic reaction. What's the real point there, do you think?
Beyond the humor, it flags awareness of AI's disruptive side, especially in places like education. It shows you're engaged with these current debates, not just giving a surface-level answer, even using a little story to do it.
Then for climate change, there's this really vivid image. Seeing a pigeon fanning itself because it's so hot. It's specific, memorable, kind of weird.
Exactly. That kind of specific, slightly unusual detail sticks out. It shows you're observing, connecting the big issue to small, maybe unexpected everyday things. It's more creative than just saying, it's getting hotter.
And then the remote work one, the friend in Bali, laptop nicked by a monkey, and the moral about supervision, again, using a story.
Yes. It's amusing, sure, but it touches on the, less glamorous or unexpected challenges of remote work. Using a narrative makes the point stick, makes it more relatable maybe than just listing potential problems. Storytelling can be powerful.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What are the main themes, the key actionable takeaways from this deep dive into our source on the 2025 IELTS speaking test?
Well, a few things really stand out. First, definitely the emphasis on being ready for current topics. AI, climate change, remote work. The source hammers these homes. So getting familiar, forming some thoughts, having examples ready seems very sensible.
And the idea of using humor or storytelling, not just dry facts, but engaging the examiner a bit more personal.
Precisely. Making that connection could leave a better impression. And then, beyond just what you say, it's how you handle the test itself. Dealing with unexpected questions, managing those silences. Having strategies for that seems crucial for, maintaining fluency.
Yeah, and it's probably worth reminding listeners, this specific source we looked at uses very informal, very punchy language. It's engaging, sure, but maybe take some of the really extreme claims, obsessed, guilt trip, with a pinch of salt.
That's a really important point. The core advice, be informed, practice communicating, think on your feet, that's solid. But the hype, the sensationalism, treat that more as illustrative flavor rather than gospel truth.
Okay, so to quickly recap, we've explored one perspective on the 2025 IELTS speaking test. We looked at likely topics, AI, climate change, remote work, the kinds of questions you might face, from personal part 1s to bigger part 3s, and strategies for handling it all, including using humor, stories, and managing silence.
Exactly. And even though our source was, shall we say, enthusiastic, maybe a bit exaggerated in tone, the fundamental message holds true. Be prepared for contemporary issues and practice thinking quickly and clearly under pressure. That's valuable advice for anyone taking the test.
Definitely. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. This source highlighted AI, climate change, remote work. It stressed being aware of current events. So what other big trends or major discussions happening right now could conceivably pop up in the 2025 test? Think beyond just those three. And how could you maybe prepare for those topics proactively, using some of these ideas, having examples, maybe a bit of humor ready, just something to mull over as you continue your IELTS prep?